Story 1, this is Fireteam Delta. Dad's coming home.
Welcome to the Military Veteran Dad Podcast, where it is our mission to bring every dad home. I am your host, Ben Killoy. I'm a United States Marine veteran, husband, and a father. We will bring authentic conversations to inspire action in your life so we can close the gap between the dad you are today and the dad you want to be tomorrow. This is the Military Veteran Dad Podcast.
To Fatherhood Fridays, where we drop some value about what is going on in your life. We talk about some of the major ideas of this podcast. And if this is your first time checking out a Fatherhood Friday, thank you for checking in. This is something that we started on January 1st, and I am loving it more and more. I actually feel like if I wish I could do a Fatherhood Friday every day of the week, I could. And probably sometime in the future, I will. If you want to check out something interesting, I just started doing my Instagram lives. I'm taking a 30-day Instagram live challenge. So go ahead and drop over to Instagram and check me out, and you can follow my live conversations where I will be pretending to have a daily podcast and doing a live video over on Instagram. And my handle is at Ben_Killoy. And the podcast handle is at Military Veteran Dad, all one word. But I'm going live on Ben_Killoy. So this week, we are bringing you a topic that, with everything going on with Corona, is near and dear to your heart. Because let's face it, Dad, the world has been turned upside down. Normal has been canceled. The kids are everywhere they're not supposed to be. You can't get anything done at work. You can't figure out necessarily the right flow. And every day you wake up with this, probably this feeling like, is this nightmare really a nightmare, or is this my real life? And hopefully this advice today brings a perspective to you to hopefully give you a really powerful tool to get you through those moments and hopefully set you up for success during the day. Since the beginning of this podcast, it was something even before episode 1. A simple idea that I had learned, it's not mine, but I loved it, and that was going to be a thesis of my podcast, was the easiest way to be a good dad. The very first step, the most fundamental step that you can take to be a better dad, to come home to your family, is to remember this one simple idea. That kids spell love T-I-M-E. Say that again. Kids spell the word love T-I-M-E. That doesn't matter if they're a teenager, a toddler, or a second grader like mine is, or in kindergarten. All of those, any ages, even if you have kids that have left your house, your kids still measure how much you love them by how much time you've given them, not by the gifts, not by any other crap that commercialism says your kids need, not all the crap that your kids get at birthdays or Christmas. It is one fundamental truth, that your kids only really truly want your time. All the other stuff is just noise. It's just noise that ends up in a box like my basement, where I have racks and racks of toys that were played with for a month and then they stopped. But in the end, all they really want is your time. And so, here's the craziest part. I can't even stress how crazy this really is. You don't need to do any of the work other than show up. Bring a watch, bring your phone, bring a timer, and just set a timer for 10 minutes. It can be done in as little as 10 minutes. If you want to go check out bonus episode number 1, was with Alyssa Van Langeveld, and she gave us some brilliant advice. Who also you can follow on Instagram at 10 minutes together. You can do this in 10 minutes at a time. So set a watch, 10 minutes, and give your kids the keys. Give your kids the keys to this moment. This moment of time that you want to gift your kids. Give them the keys. I don't care. And if they can speak and they can coordinate a sentence, give them the keys. Now, if they can't speak and coordinate a sentence, you just need to be there. But if they can speak, like my 3-year-old, she knows how the world works already, according to her. So she knows exactly what she wants. And all I need to do is ask her, hey, what do you want to do for our 10 minutes a day? My son simply just wants to play trains or tractors or something really simple in his room. My oldest, who's 8, we've colored, we've done puzzles, we've done jacks, we've done marble runs. It is some of the simplest things. When you give your kids the keys to whatever it is they want, it's never, ever complicated. Maybe it's Legos. That's something else my son loves. Maybe it's just Legos. And the brilliant part of this is it can be done in 10 minutes. And I was on a phone call with a dad the other day, and he actually took this idea and took it a little bit farther. He does 15 minutes with his kids, but he does it right before dinner. So his 2 daughters know that right before dinner is one-on-one daddy time. They've got it planned out. Dad knows that he has to have it blocked off, and he gets it done. And he knows if he doesn't do it, their behavior is reflective of that gap. That's something that's, you don't see it until you start doing this, that when you have a child acting out aggressively, hitting, just not listening, maybe shouting and screaming, and maybe it's a meltdown over someone taking a toy, that moment is exactly the opposite of the real problem. I almost have gotten to a default mode that whatever problem my kids are bringing me, I always assume the problem is something else. Because you have to understand a child only understands to articulate something with the limited world that they've experienced. And a lot of times they'll feel something, but they won't have the depth that an adult has to understand, like, oh, I'm really upset because someone did something to me earlier in the playground at school. And this is just me acting out that emotion. Because for them, they're the same. There's no separation. But this is the moment that they're experiencing whatever it is they're feeling in the other part of their mind. And this is a good example of where a lot of what your kids are bringing to you, whether it be a tantrum or screaming, or your teenager just not listening and just going on revolt mode, a lot of it comes back to that emotional connection of time. It is so fundamental for a child's development to know that they have a one-on-one connection, an undivided attention, especially in 2020 with all the noise we have going on, especially all the easiness it is to just get lost in your phone. All of that is so important to reinforce with time. So let's circle back. If you've got a day that you haven't been able to figure out how to integrate it and figure out where the right place for you to get a groove between work and homeschooling, especially if you're homeschooling, because that's a thing now that we're all also dealing with. All of those things, every day I wake up with the idea, okay, what didn't work about yesterday? Let's try to improve it. But try to focus on incorporating some type of one-on-one time with each one of your kids. Because that time, that routine, your kids, all of my kids routinely throughout the week will ask, hey, Dad, can I have 10 minutes yet? Hey, Dad, can I have 10 minutes yet? It oftentimes is, hey, not right now, but in 30 minutes, hey, let's do Legos or trains. And that's something they understand because they know the connection in 10 minutes that when that happens, they have my undivided attention. And almost all the time, they can wait. I've stopped complete meltdowns with my youngest. And I've got down, I've looked in her eyes and said, I understand that you need my attention right now, but Daddy's maybe trying to make lunch or dinner. Once we get done with dinner, how about Daddy gives you 10 minutes? That's game changer. Like instantly, like just like snapping your fingers like Mary Poppins, you will see a change in behavior. It's almost like, did that just work? And it's as simple as remembering that your kids spell love Time. Now, parenting, I'm not trying to simplify and say that it's down to that there's so many nuances of parenting and so many things you have to figure out and understand. But when it comes to behavior, when it comes to making sure your kids continually try to kind of flow through the day versus trying to be this ping pong balls bouncing off the walls and driving you nuts. Just remember, at the end of the day, they don't want things. They don't want toys from Amazon. Well, they may say they do. That's really just no different than us going to Facebook to get a dopamine hit. They like the feeling of getting something new and playing with it, but like Facebook, it eventually gets old. And that connection, that time, that is truly the best gift that you can give your kids. And so try to focus on your routine throughout the day and figure out how can you incorporate 10-minute one-on-one time with each one of your kids. How can this be a staple in your day? Because it could be an anchor for you. Like maybe if you did it before lunchtime, like you came out of the office from work, maybe your wife was taking their kids, know that like maybe this is a 30-minute break for your wife. Like, hey, I got the kids, I'll do one-on-one time with them. Let that be something they look forward to, because like, and this is something else as military fathers, and any father that listens to this, whether you're military or not, this applies. You are their hero. So anything that comes from you, you have this amazing ability to bring this like warm chocolate chip cookie to their life every time you enter their life, that they just get excited. It doesn't matter whether I just punished Dylan 30 minutes ago and he was saying that Daddy, you're the worst daddy ever, which happens. Every kid goes through these phases and it hurts. But then 30 minutes later, I'm right back to being the hero. These aren't real understandings of how they're expressing. They just use the basic information of what they understand about life. So you can't take the serious what they bring you, because a lot of times it's just what they can express. And if you're triggered, you can't deal with the triggered child. You have to make sure that you're also untriggered, which allows you to not take it personal, to just let it go, or maybe you need to discipline for whatever action they took. But just remember, figure out how can you incorporate a simple 10-minute reminder to spend some time with your kids. And even if you put it on a piece of paper in your office, wherever you're working from home, hopefully you haven't got laid off, wherever you're doing, just remember, put that piece of paper and let that be your reminder. Oh yeah, there's a meltdown going out there. Maybe I can solve it with giving them 10 minutes of my time. It's been game changer for me. It's been one of my favorite things I've implemented from learning from the podcast, because it does, and I love that connection. Like, it's like in the simplicity of it, like my 3-year-old just rolling the ball around, like that's all she wants. And we've probably done it 50 times, but every time it's just as good as it was the last time. So don't get caught up on trying to make it memorable. Don't get caught up on what the idea is. Don't get caught up on all these lists of good ideas. Just give them the keys to the bus and just show up. That's all you got to do. That's it. It's literally the most simplistic step you could take. And if you've been listening to the podcast through coronavirus, I have been talking about how to grow through this. How do you grow the depth of who you are? How do you rise to the challenge of what coronavirus is bringing into your life? How do you set the bar for who you want to be as a father higher, so that when this is all over, you're above it? This is a simple way to take a simple step and to really get a physical feeling connection with your kids. Even get a hug at the end of it. Like, that is an empowering feeling. And you can't underestimate how much that physical connection of a good hug and that emotional connection of your time, that deposit will leave a dividend that you won't be able to measure until years into the future. But you have to trust that those little deposits of 10 minutes reminds them who they are, reminds them they're significant, reminds them that you love them in a way that isn't materialistic, and gives them that time and love that they need as a child. They need to know that they're loved. And just, you've got this. I know you've got this. If you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, this is something I've been talking on for a long time. There has never been a better time to focus on kids spelling love, TIME, and trying to incorporate a simple idea of like this into your daily routine, because it will help anchor you. It will help you move through the day, and it will give you the idea that you're not a complete failure. Like, the world isn't burning down around you, while it may mentally feel like that sometimes. When you anchor yourself in what matters, which is your family, we talk about our family as our legacy. That anchor can move through a ocean of hurricanes because your family's love is what matters. And if you can build those small connections, you can even take this and try to do something with your wife. Try to spend some 10 minutes. Now, I wouldn't argue, I wouldn't sell it as like 10 minutes together, the same as the kids, but just have 10 minutes of connection, like check in with each other. How are you guys doing? Try to connect on a different way and empathize with which each other's world's going on. That's something we also talk about in the podcast. So I don't want to go into a new tangent, but just focus in on trying to create that connection with your kids. And remember, however you need to remember it, kids spell love Time. And if you give them the time, intention, and love that they need, they will be fueled up and they will be more, let's say, calm. Not necessarily calm, that's probably a bad word because kids are very highly up and down all the time. But there'll be more flow through the day. It won't be this rigid battle of back and forth of behavior. And they'll respond better as well. It's like I said, it's magical. And if this works for you, I would love to hear how it worked for you. I would drop me an email. Tell me a success story about this. I'd love to share it on the podcast in the future. If you've got coronavirus questions, go ahead. There's a link at the bottom of every episode that's been out there to drop me a question. I would love to answer that question for you. And what I'm doing, if you've got something that you're trying to work through during this coronavirus, you're trying to grow through something, use that link at the bottom of the show notes. You can go to any of the show notes. There's a link down there. Click that, fill it out, drop me a link, and I would love to hear from you. You can drop me an email, ben@militaryveterandad.com. Those emails fuel me up. And if this does work for you and you are an iPhone user, a review on iTunes always is appreciated because those are just even more powerful because other people see the inspiring impact we are making here on the Military Veteran Dad podcast. So with that, I'll sign off to this Fatherhood Friday, and I will talk to you again on Monday.